Hey guys, so welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Let's carry on where we left off. We've survived yet another summation examination. 4 of the 6 jurors declaring not guilty for Gina Lestrade, at least for now, much to Van Ziek's chagrin, I'm sure. Order, please. Let us resume proceedings. Witnesses, you will now retake the stand. The Skulkin brothers, looking guilty as sin after I uncovered a slight nudge of items on the disc, and I guess Papa Gregson? Danny Gregson, looking after his 2 children. I presume you heard the defense counsel's summation examination? Oh, yeah, Governor. I did, Gov, I did. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Cool, blimey! This is going to be hard work. Alright, you couple of crooks. Answer my questions honestly this time. Earlier in this trial, you gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Winnibanks. Well, it was bedlam soon as, weren't it? It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out me Lucy lockets. Huh. However, that was a lie. A bold-faced, stone-cold lie. You brothers. Cool, blimey. On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter, and you almost put it back perfectly, despite the rather chaotic nature of the table. We never done nothing of the sort. How'd you figure that out? Get your stories straight, guys. Come on, this isn't a prisoner's dilemma. How'd I figure it out? You guys were here, were you? You watching me pace back and forth in front of the jury? You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question. And this time, you will tell the truth. You've already got perjury added to your list of crimes. Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. Ooh. And that, gentlemen, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. If they rack up a long enough rap sheet, I'm sure Van Zieks will prosecute him, and the Reaper of the Bailey will enact his curse. Ugh. A thought worth pondering, perhaps. Say no more, Gov, we hear ya. Well, blab will squeak, we peach. What? Preach? Peach? I don't know. Anyway, witness testimony. Here we go. The guy's standing on a box, and he's still so freaking short. Illegal entry, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. It was when we heard the gunshot, see? Made us both jump, and all that stuff went flying. Lummy, it didn't half give me a fright. We was thinking the shoot'd come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back where we found it and scarpered, straight into him in the black. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had the chance, did we? No, but you shot the great detective Herlock Sholmes. So you admit to the defense's accusation. You did indeed ransack Mr. Windibank's countertop on the night in question. Within half an hour, no less. Not that it's a big feat or anything. Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nash, that's right. It's more like we tidied up. Yeah. Even Van Zieks is just like, okay, come on. You guys are full of shit. Sorry. By their own admission, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made good their mess. The way you say it, we hardly sound like roughs at all. He's got away with words. We don't, Nash, we don't. Can't he make us sound a bit more cutthroat? I don't even think you can reach someone's throat there, sir. It can't just be a coincidence that these men showed up at Windibanks that night. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye. I'm sure of it. Okay, Gregson? Not gonna interject there for a sec? Fine, we'll do it ourselves. Okay, if we're suspecting that they had a reason to break into Windibank's pawnbroker in the first place, let's press them on why they knocked a few things over and that fact that they weren't rifling for nothing. Hold it! Explain. If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place? Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nash, we ain't. If we admitted to something like that, people would think we was up to no good. I mean, it's all over your faces, guys. Quite literally, your eyeshadow resembles a mask. Not to mention the, you know, the skull and cross on your lapel there. Well said, Ringo, me old China. We'd only land ourselves in even more trouble. And in fact now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, you have landed in said trouble. That's exactly what you've done. Landed yourselves in even more trouble, you geniuses. Took a chance, did you? That's rotten luck. I like how, the fact that we can check whether someone else is going to react, it has to rise a little bit above Ringo's head there, because he's so freaking short. Says the rotten apple eater. Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's counter? We never ransacked nothing. Right, Nash, right. More like we tidied the place up. Oh, he's giving them the evil eye. Sorry. All that stuff went flying, huh? So what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much, you knocked all those things off the counter. Just those things specifically. Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah. This bag of nerves needs to learn to keep his shirt on. Look, it was loud, alright. Blimey, me dead granny would have woken up at that bang. Big bruv here screamed like a bloomin' baby and fell over on the counter. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. That got tangled in some marionette, what knocked over a picture frame, what knocked them scales on the floor. God, it sounds like a Rube Goldberg device. You've really mastered working quietly then. I mean, can you fault them? It was a gunshot. If they if they were only there to burgle and you hear a gunshot, I mean, they probably got shocked, and I don't blame them for knocking things over. What a racket! Me granny would have been scared back into her grave at a clatter like that. If there was no gunshot and they knocked things over like a clumsy pair of fools, then yeah, it would be pretty embarrassing. So in short, the gunshot took you by surprise. And then some. I mean, it was quiet as a mouse, and then all of a sudden, BAM! Uh-oh. What, you just suddenly got a craving for your fries there?
Excuse me!
What's up? Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add? Were you there that night too? Like I keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels. Yeah, no, something to add about their testimony. I know your surname isn't Skulkin, otherwise I would have said Mr. Skulkin and Mr. Skulkin and Mr. Skulkin. You seemed to react just now at what Mr. Skulkin said, which is not you, by the way. Did it make you think of something? It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't even bother to mention it, only, well, the fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details. How about you just tell us what's on your mind? Just spit it out, you've already brought it up. As you know, we brought these fellas into the yard for questioning last night, and the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now. Oh. Really? Did it? You guys can't keep your stories straight for one day. You claimed you had the victim shout something out before the gunshot. Might have, Gov. Might have. Does ring a bell now you mention it. Granted, it's only a minor detail, but still. Can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, eh, fellas? If I discover the witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has hitherto proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear against them. Van Zeeks. I'll unleash them upon his court. We'll get it right this time. That's it, yep. It's all coming back to me now. Oh, you know, foolish me, you know. It was a bit hazy. I didn't get much sleep last night in that cell. My back and my brain. Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details have miraculously returned to your questionable minds, sirs. Right you are, Gov. Supplement, now. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun!" Oh, really?
Hold it!
So the victim said it, so Mr. Winterbank did. So in fact, you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously. We did, Gov, we did. Although, I suppose if you're being honest. We heard a kind of wavering voice before the yell and all. If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun! Whoa, that's a nice reenactment there, fellas. Kind of thing. Maybe you can perform in prison as court jesters. A career in acting tragically missed. Right? Okay. So, it sounds like maybe where they're going with this, that Gina had the gun, threatened Mr. Winterbank with hesitation, mind you, like, you know, if you don't want to get shot, I'll do it. I really will. And then I guess he tried to call her bluff, and then the gunshot happened. I'm thinking, that can't be when Mr. Winterbank was killed, could it? I know the gun only fired once, so we'd have to say that the gun got swapped, but there's no way in and out of that room without anyone seeing, unless there's a hidden passage somewhere. I'm thinking Mr. Winterbank was already dead. I'm gonna need more information. I can't speculate. Of course we could. From the other side of the door behind the counter it was. From the storeroom, where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard was that of the victim, Mr. Winterbank. On me Granny's life. Of course it was. So you know what Mr. Winterbank sounds like? I guess they're just going to assume because there were only two people in the room. On his Granny's life. Of course it was. It's your Granny too. So, that would mean that you both knew Mr. Winterbank and the sound of his voice. Exactly, Ryunosuke, yeah, exactly. So that would mean what? What, Nash, what? Any ideas? Yes, Counsel, indeed it would. I'm surprised you guys haven't sweated all the water in your system. No, we didn't know the geezer. Guys, did you just hear what the judge said? How am I supposed to deny it when that bloke in all the fancy club has given us the evil eye? Oh. I didn't realize you were that short. He has to literally look down at his desk. If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true. On me Granny's life it is. On his Granny's life it must be. It's a good job his Granny's dead. To summarize then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then hear the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them over the shop floor. You make it sound like we're clumsy. Well, I mean, don't forget we tied it up after like good little boys. Anyway, the way I see it, the bloke what owned the place was holding the gun, so he should have just fired instead of yelling at the girl. Wait, what? Wait, so Mr. Winterbank was holding the gun, which means Gina's the one that said, give me that gun? And he was the one that said, if you do anything, I'll shoot you? Interesting. Because, of course, normally Mr. Winterbank aims the gun at himself, but of course, if there's a break-in in the middle of the night, I have to assume he'd use the gun on whoever broke in. Hold it! We're getting more and more testimony each time we press. You're saying that Mr. Winterbank had a gun in his hands? Oh, yeah. Bet that was a sight, eh? Them two waving them guns at each other. Must have got pretty heated. Oh, so, two guns. I mean, just before he shouted out, we heard the geezer say, if you don't want to get shot. Didn't really sound like he meant it, mind. More of an empty threat, you could say. Mr. Winterbank was known to keep a revolver on his shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping, he'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. That someone being himself, of course. Great. Good grief! Extraordinary devotion, indeed, if alarmingly misguided. Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger the other night. Only the person he was gonna shoot beat him to it. Cooked his goose proper. Bet he wished he squeezed that trigger instead of wasting time shouting, give me that gun. And it was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot. It was more or less at the same time, Gov. Give me that gun! Bam. Kind of thing. Yes, a career in acting very tragically missed. Then we heard the sound of someone hitting the deck, before everything went dead quiet. After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up. You guys look so happy and proud of yourselves. Okay, I'm leaning towards this photograph of Gina here because she's seen holding Mr. Windibank's gun, as noted here. And they're saying he was holding it, so there's a direct contradiction. Here's hoping.
Objection.
All right. Good. You're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windibank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct? That's it, Gov. You've got the picture. He has, Nash, he has. No question. And yet the photographic evidence from the time of the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windibank was not in possession of a firearm of any description.
Objection.
Yeah, half an hour ago. You surprise me. Does the defense really intend to highlight evidence that compromises the position of the accused even more? My job is to find contradictions. I found one. That's all I'm doing, okay? Furthermore, the defense has failed to establish that the photographic print presented was taken a suitably short time prior to the victim's death. Your chronology is severely lacking, counsel. Oh, is this like an extended penalty? Yeah, that's right. Too right, Nash, too right. The old geezer could have been about to turn the tables on the girl, eh? Hardly likely, given what you guys said in your little dramatic reenactment. No, I'm afraid this won't stand as conclusive evidence. Ugh. Continue with the cross-examination, counsel. And heed my earlier warning, witnesses. Really? I didn't get a penalty, though. A skulkin's never skulkin'. That's never happened before, has it? So I was wrong, and yet I don't get penalized for it. I wonder. Okay, maybe we need to get more information out of them. And then only after we've uncovered something else will the trial progress? Let's start pressing some more statements. Yeah, might as well go in order.
Hold it!
So, you didn't try to open the storeroom door then? Not on your life. It went deathly quiet after that, it did. Put the wind right up me. But anyway, the door was locked, weren't it? No way that was opening. Yes, of course. It was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe. It was, Gov, it was! From the inside! Right. So we had no way of knowing what was going on in there, did we? How'd you know he had the gun then? Unless there was some other way to get a view of the inside of the storeroom. There's the, peephole, or more of a peep box, really. Like through the keyhole, or a spy hole, perhaps. Don't ring no bells, don't light no lights. We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that. We're still cutting our teeth in this game, see? But one day... we'll really cut the mustard. I like how Gregson was involved in that by the camera panning out. Please cut it out. But as we know, behind that door was the victim's lifeless body, with the accused not 2 feet away. Yes, unfortunately. Gina was in there unconscious, with the gun in her hand. To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom? That's right, Gov, that's right. Couldn't have even if we wanted to. So you stuck everything back where you found it and scarpered straight into the man in black. Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Shums. Oh, yeah, we was a bit hasty there. We was, Nash, we was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you lot turned up. If you're shaking like a leaf, don't put a loaded gun in your hand. Good advice, miss. Good advice. Truth be told, me mind went totally blank. Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand. Mental note made, miss. These guys are terrible. After that, we legged it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or something, so they clapped the derbies on us like winking. And after you'd been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct? Well, yeah. But listen, that proves it, doesn't it? Eh? The fact that they didn't shoot him? Couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, you didn't have the chance.
Hold it!
And why should we believe that? What? Well, because it's true, isn't it? Is it, though? The place was totally empty when we went in. At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor of the pawnbrokery, Mr. Winterbank. Correct. You got it, mister. Down to a T. So the Skulkin brothers never actually encountered Mr. Winterbank? Is that really true, I wonder? That's it? That's the full extent of their testimony?
What is it, Rune? You look very fierce. I could pour you some herbal tea if you're tired.
Oh, thank you, but I'm fine. Being such a logical thinker, you'll probably laugh. But I feel as though these brothers are still hiding something. Something important. It is nothing more than a feeling, though. I've no proof to support it. When I submit proof, I get lambasted.
Well, feelings can be very logical at times.
Sorry.
People's expressions, the movements of their eyes, the words they choose. You can take all that and your brain will quietly analyze it to come up with a feeling like you describe. You've concluded there's something suspicious about this testimony without knowing why, that's all.
True.
I think you should trust your instincts.
Iris, thank you. Sometimes I think if she's 10 years old, I must be 5. I mean, she's not wrong. If you get a bad feeling about someone when they're saying stuff, there's probably more to it than you think. Okay, we listened to the rest of the statements. We uncovered nothing new, which means we're back to square one here. This statement, we must need to present something, probably something different. Must have been pretty close. What do we want to present? We can, say that there are signs of a single discharge of the gun. Got a crime scene photograph. I mean, he was shot in the back. Like, why would you what if they're saying that he was holding a gun? He should have just fired. What was he gonna just fire over his shoulder because he was turned away from her or something?
Objection!
Well, it worked. I was ready to just eat the penalty. So you're saying? Yeah, that must be it, right? That on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Winterback, was wielding a gun. Is that correct? Like, I was hesitant at first because, you know, I guess if they were in a struggle and they were wrestling for the gun, I guess it could conceivably... No, even then. Like, or maybe she, like, shoves him backwards and then shoots him in the back through the heart. But, yeah, if he's ordering her and aiming the gun at her, so to speak, then why did he get shot in the back? That's it, Gov. You got the picture. I did. I presented the picture to you. Yes, Nash, yes, no question. And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Winterbank was not holding a firearm of any description. Oh, yeah, that too. That's probably a more apt objection to raise. You what? Gordon Bennett, that ain't right.
Objection!
Oh. And this time we got the objection music playing, so there. There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Winterbank's gun was found at the scene. In Gina's hand. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hand. Yeah, that Moltooler used the victim's own gun to finish him off. Give me that gun! Any excuse for you guys to reenact it. Kind of thing.
Hold it!
Stay exactly where you are, right there! If the crime had taken place as you so colorfully described in your testimony, why did he get shot in the front? It would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out. Goodness, are you sure, counsel? You intrigue me, my learned friend. But let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where's the proof that demonstrates this inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moments? Probably the autopsy report. Let's just double check. Just because I was willing to eat a penalty before doesn't mean I'm willing to do so now. Bullet to the heart, bullet into the body from the back on a gently rising diagonal trajectory.
Take that!
Take it! According to their testimony, the witnesses claim to have heard a shout of "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot. Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe. Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. Okay, there we go. See, I was onto something when I said that the photo showed him shot in the back. Why would you be threatening someone with your back turned to them, aiming the gun over your shoulder? However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantly after being shot from behind. So, as I stated before, you guys are brilliant actors, but maybe stick to the script of what really happened next time. There is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin! Stop lying!
But it's the God's honest truth. It is, Nash, it is. When he was shot that night. The shopkeeper had a gun in his hand, and we saw it with our own bleeding eyes.
So you did see it. Did I hear you right just now? You actually saw Mr. Winterbank holding a gun. Something like that might have slipped out. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses, that on the night in question they actually saw, with their own bleeding eyes, quote unquote, the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person. Nash. I got you now. Order! Order! Witnesses, explain yourselves at once. I swear to God you don't heed my warning. I will fuck you up. Well, the thing is, we weren't supposed to, It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears, soon to fall on dead ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you. Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies? I'm so sorry, Governor. Truth is, we cut it out, Nash, cut it out. If we blab now, you know what it will do to us. He? What are they talking about? Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you. Bruv, come on, the game's up. But you'll have our guts for garters. In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out. If he won't kill you, the Reaper will, I can assure you. On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place. Well, do we have to? On pain of death. I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth. Alright. Serious time now, guys. Get your shit together. Encounter with the victim. Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed us his mug. Give me that gun, bellowed. Then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we had it. It's so hard to read. God. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. Wait, what? He, wrestled you two? I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear. Okay, so there was a confrontation. So you're now telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop?
Well, yeah. Sorry.
Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably. Interesting. Okay, so it depends on what time this happened, because at 1 a.m. Gina had the gun in her hand, and Mr. Winterbank, I suppose, had his hands up, right? Semi-up, we'll say. Okay, and then by 1:30, they were gone. The tussle must have happened because the items on the table had moved. But honest, Governor, this time, Nash, this time, we ain't got nothing more to hide. Very well. Counsel for defense, you may proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. Alright. I'm gonna eat you savages alive. Okay, so he's saying that Mr. Winterbank shouted at them to give me that gun, so he probably saw that they were armed, and he flew at them like he was possessed. And then he threw Ringo over the counter. I pulled my gun on him. Yeah, let's press this one for now. So, were you intending to shoot Mr. Winterbank? No, never. I was just, you know, looking out for me bruv, weren't I? He was being flattened, don't forget. By a man whose shop was being burgled, yes. And then, the man fled into the storeroom when you pointed your gun at him, is that it? Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away, then ran off through that door and shut himself in. There's something about that last remark. Something that doesn't quite ring true.
I wonder why Mr. Winterbank ran away into the storeroom.
What?
Well, according to what everyone's saying, Ginny was in there waiting for him, with a gun.
Ah, yes, that's right. Gina allegedly used Mr. Winterbank's gun to threaten him and forced him to open the storeroom door. In which case, how did the gun end up in Mr. Winterbank's hands again?
I have no idea. But that is strange, isn't it?
This little inconsistency could be significant. I should make a mental note of it. Look, the point is, me and my bruv here. That's right, Nash, that's right. Me and my bruv here. You had nothing to do with killing him. You say you had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. Nothing, Gov, nothing. The old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he? Locked it was, from the inside. We know it was, because we tried to open it. Oh. But it's a decent door, that one. Good and strong. Wouldn't budge an inch. So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could possibly have shot the victim, the accused Miss Gina Lestrade. Ugh. It would indeed appear so. What say you to that, counsel? I object, obviously. I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina who could possibly have shot Mr. Winterbank? There could have been. There always could have been. If my client is innocent. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. What? What's that look for? From the moment you admitted that you had encountered the victim face to face that night. The course of this trial changed completely. It did? What is your point, my learned friend? The question we must answer is who could have shot Mr. Winterbank? And it is the belief of the defense that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all. Well, well. You have my attention. In that case, let us return to this plan of the premises. Maybe someone did dig a tunnel to the bank after all. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts. What other possible answer to the question of who shot the man could there be? Counsel? You must now provide answers to the court in respect of two conundrums. Oh god, okay. Yep. Two, my lord. Twice as many chances to be right, maybe? Indeed. Namely, From what location did the culprit shoot the victim? And furthermore, where was the victim at the time? Understood, my lord.
Are you alright, Reno?
Do I look okay? I'm not entirely sure. But there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, it would change Gina's prospects hugely. So now, time for some clarity. Show the court on this plan the answers to the questions posed by his lordship. Okay, if you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun. Over here. Outside, right?
Take that!
The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here. And in answer to the second question, I wonder, will I be told if I'm wrong straight away, or do I have to, like, submit both answers before they tell me if I'm right or wrong? Assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at the time? Here. It has to be, right? There's no bloodstains through the store. He must have been shot right here in the back.
Take that!
It's the only thing I can think of. Right? The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom. Continue. He's contemplating. Okay, I'll take that as a good sign. Mr. Winneback died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear that the body was moved after death. Which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired? So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom? Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony... I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room. They said a lot of lies and bullshit, Your Honor. Sorry, it's taking me some time to rifle through my paperwork here. If Mr. Winneback ran away through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time. It was at precisely that moment, when the victim was fleeing for his life, that these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside that storeroom.
Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said at the start of the trial?
What did he say? Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner. His report states that the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. Hey, you know who else is short here? It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself. Significantly shorter.
Poor man. Shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety.
Of course. He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. So even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it would still have entered his body on an upward trajectory. He was a pretty top-heavy guy.
So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Winneback.
Objection!
You can't object to my personal conversation with Iris. I'm sure my learned friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claim the victim was shot as he fled into the room. Do you also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock? Rigor mortis, it's a bitch, you know, his fingers stiffened. But, what if someone else locked the door? Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door. Is that so? Very well then, counsel. Present your hypothesis to the court. In the scenario just described, the defense's assertion is that the victim was shot from the outside the storeroom. In which case, who shut and locked the storeroom door from the inside? The only other person in there.
Take that!
Gina Lestrade. Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom at the time. The defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Objection!
That's absurd! Oh, wow, he recoiled. It's the first time I think I've seen him do that. You're suggesting that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room? Yeah, if she's scared for her life, these guys are gonna try and bust in there to shoot whoever's Whoever witnessed them killing Mr. Winterback, yeah, of course. For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck. I think she'd take her chances with the court rather than outright die that evening. I'm inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel? Yes. That's, whew. That's a tricky one, that, isn't it? Half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Remember that, please.
But of course Ginny would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it?
Yeah, right? Because she's trying to keep herself safe. It does.
Well, if I was Ginny in that situation, I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they?
Oh, yes, obviously. Come on, Ryunosuke, get your shit together. I know the adrenaline's got you all hyped up and you're not thinking straight. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Winterback were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at some point, Mr. Winterback must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom. Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv. If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom. Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Not only that, but probably to protect Gina as well, right? Hit in the back by the bullet, Mr. Winterback fell to the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is, what would the defendant have done in that moment? I see where you're going with this. Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Mr. Winterback. As soon as that thought struck Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it. In order to save her own life.
Hold it!
Oh? But I ain't. I mean,
We're the ones who done it!
we ain't, Gov, we ain't. You gotta believe us. I mean, come on. We'd never shoot no one. Would you know?
Objection!
You shot Sherlock Holmes. That's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would. Because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Sherlock Holmes. There's only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Winterback's murder. Well, what say you? Where does this leave us?
You mean to say it wasn't the pickpocket who shot the pawnbroker after all?
I should have known it was those three brothers. They look as shady as a dense forest.
That was amazing, Rune. All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now.
I know. First time ever. And probably the last.
Well, I think you've done it. Surely they'll have to give a verdict of not...
Put that thing away before they change their mind. An admirable effort, my learned friend. What? What's this now? I can't have my cake and eat it too? He's laughing. You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zeeks. I myself find the defense's argument most persuasive. I dare say. Such chicanery, I'm sorry, is the bread and butter of the street performers in your provincial eastern nation. But such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettifoggery here. Oh, I'm the one who conjures stuff with black magic. You're the one who kills people. You're the Reaper of the freaking Bailey, man.